Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Avodah Zarah, Daf Lamed Hey. We are going to begin on Lamed Daled Amud Beis by the two dots, about 8 lines or so from the bottom. The Gemara says, Omer Yehuda Shol Rabbi Shmuel. So this goes back to our Mishnah. So let's spend a few minutes on Chav Tes Amud Beis going through this Mishnah. So they asked a question, and they said, "Mipnei asru gavinus of kachavim." What is the reason why the cheese of an idol worshiper is asur? So they start off by saying, "Mipnei shemamida noisa b'keva shel nevela," because the process of making cheese is the curdling was done in the inners of a nevela of a non-kosher animal. So Omer, they said, one second. V'lo kevas oila chamur mekevas nevela. When it comes to the keva of a carbon ola, we're very strict. It's asur b'hana, and if a person would derive benefit from it, there's a din me'ila. So we're much more strict when it comes to an ola. Amru kayin shadaita yafe sarfu chaya. We've mentioned that in the event that you have this kohen who is able to withstand it, says Rashi, Shin Katsu Moyisbo, he's not repulsed, then we tell him that he could sarfa. Rashi says goymei, he can swallow it up whole. We said that maybe he shouldn't do that. So in this case, if he would swallow it, there's no din me'ila. So if that's the case, that we are strict generally when it comes to a oila, but when it comes to the keva, we are so lenient that we say there's no din me'ila if you would swallow it whole. So then how could we be so strict when it comes to the gavina, which is curdled in the keva of nevela? So instead we switch to the issue of idol worship, that it was actually in a calf that was used for Avodah Zarah, and which we know that is asur b'hana. So one second. So why do we say it's only an isur b'chila? It should also be an isur b'hana. So hasil davar acher. So he was distracted. Amar Rabbi Shmuel heicha takayra. How do you read the pasuk? Ki toivim doidecha miyayin or ki toivim doidayich. So when it comes to how great is our friendship, so Rashi says dodayich is lashon nekeva. And Rashi says, "V'hachi ka'ayim kam." We're going to see this in the Gemara. Knesset Yisrael yashkene kadosh baruch hu neshichos pihu ki kach oimeli toivim dodecha miyayin. So we'll understand exactly what the rest of that mission is talking about when we get to that piece in the Gemara today. So now let's go back to our Gemara again on Lamed Daled Amud Beis by the two dots. So again, we're wondering what is the din by the cheese of avodas kachavim. Why are we so strict? So Omer Yehuda, so Shoy Rabbi Shmuel. So Omer Rav Achdavoy, Omer Rav Hamatish B'Heresh Shor Hanisko Mekudeshas. Not suggesting that this would be the most romantic form of kedushin, but if you would give a woman waste matter that came from a Shor Hanisko, we know a Shor Hanisko typically is asur b'hana, but nonetheless, we say that its waste is allowed. However, if you would give her the waste from an animal of idol worship, then it's not a kedushin. So obviously, we see the distinction between mutar b'hana and asur b'hana. So ibois ema svar, ibois ema kra. Ibois ema svar. What's the logic? Because gabi eglei b'os kachavim nichle benavche. The reason why the parish has value is when it comes to Avodah Zarah, because it looks good if it's bloated, if it looks fatty. Therefore, it looks better as an idol, as for your altar, for this worshiping, if it's a bigger animal. So, if it has waste matter in it, it makes it bigger. So therefore, it makes sense. That's nichle. That's why it's asur b'hana. Avol gabi shar hanisko nichle benavche. We could care less what the size of the animal looks like, and therefore, because of the parish is allowed. Ibois ema kra siv hachal yidbach biad chamuma. You can't have any connection to it at all, which includes even the parish. Except hasam saki sakal hashar v'lo yaichlas b'sar. You can't eat its meat. B'sar aser hapirsho muteres. Okay. Amurava Turvayu Tini. The truth is, this can be derived directly from our Mishnah. Since the Mishnah said, as we already read, we said originally the issue is because it's being curdled in the inners of a nevel animal. Now, then we end up saying, well, it can't be that we're so strict when it comes to the kavas nevela, because kavas oil chamor and kavas nevela. So we said our carbon oil were generally much more strict as we continue on with Aleph, but nonetheless, if you swallow it, there's no din me'ila. And then we end up saying it must be because of a different thing, because of the egle avodas kochavim. Now machlal the asuri hana shari per shayu. It must be, the fact is that this waste matter must be allowed. The clearly that when it came to the Avodah Zarah, that it is asur b'hana. So we end up saying no, it's different because it's not extant, it's not here. The Morius Lorbanan, when it comes to this Morius, which we've learned about before, this fish fat, which is the Dindarabanan and the Sidarabanan of Chash, that maybe there's non-kosher fishes in there, etc. So it's only Dindarabanan, the Lo Asruha Bahana. So my time, allow me show me the way to Isur B'yene, because it's not extant. So Amri Hacha Kivan De'ukmi Kamoikim Chashavle Command Isali Isur B'yene. So because it makes cheese, its remnant is a davar hamaimid, so therefore it's k'il like it is there, and therefore we can't say, well, maybe we're not geyser because it's not something which is be'en, it's not here. The answer is because it serves a purpose in making cheese. That's a davar hamaimid, and therefore because of that, it has its purpose in its existence. Therefore, it's considered there. Okay, let's look at question 2. The reason issue of cheese is because Mamin became a cycle about Zarah. The Madua in his center Sahana. So Maishna did a memorious Hana the Rabbanan. So why, when it comes to the Morius, that it's not an Isser, there's no Isser Hana. So Hasam over there, Lasely Isser Be'ene, it's not visible to the eye. But Hacha, Kivan de Ukmi Kamoikim. But over here in this situation, because it does serve a purpose, it's a davar maimid, so chashalei kamadi isli sur be'ene. So therefore that's the reason why it's usher. Chizki oimer, and that we didn't see yet, I don't think. So let's see, it's Chizki oimer, kivashim v'yadu shnais n'saychen yayin asur b'hana kasha kanal mashna memuris l'orabbanon. Okay, we didn't do that yet. Okay, let's keep going. So hasil davar acher v'chul. So my ki toivim doidecha miyayin. What is this whole pasuk going over here? What does that mean? So kiyas rabdi mi omer amr kaneses so nekadosh baruch hu. The Yidden said to Hashem, Rabbi Shalom, arivim olai divrei doidecha. So sweet are the words of doidecha, as Rashi says, Divrei Seifrim, the words of our sages are greater, Yais Miyayinishal Torah, even greater than the Torah itself, the Iker Torah Shebechsav. So Maishna, Hai Kra Dishaile, why this particular pasuk was he trying to distract him? So Rabbi Shimon Pazivitem Rabbi Shimon Bar Ami Meresh Dekra Carmel. It's actually from the beginning of the pasuk, Ashkenim in the Shichos Pihu, that you shall kiss with this kiss with the mouth. Close up your lips one to the next. And you should not be so quick to answer. My timer. When it comes to a new gezerah, as we're going to see for the first 12 months, we don't want to start explaining reasons why we're making these gezerahs, because if you start doing that, before that, everything was mutter. So people are going to try to come up, well, that's not a logical reason to make a gezerah. So therefore, the first 12 months, we don't even explain it. We just say, listen, this is the decree, this is how it is, and you have to follow it. And therefore, that's why he was quoting this pasuk. So, my gezerah, so some Rav Shimon ben Pazir, Rav Shimon Levi, Mishum Nikor. The issue is because of the pecking of the snakes, which means that we're concerned that because they were not makbid in covering up their liquids, so it's possible that the snakes may have put some venom in there as they leave their milk uncovered. So v'lei malei mishum nikor. So why doesn't he actually say it? Because of nikor. Keda'ula di'amar ki gazru gazrusa b'marava l'magalo taima treyasa yarchi shaita. After all, as we said, we don't tell the reason, even if that is the reason, we're not going to say it for the first 12 months, because Dilma Ika Inish, maybe someone's not going to hold like that. Yasel Zuzli Bon say, what are you doing? Come on, I'll put another example. So Megadav Rabbi Yomi says, El Miata, that can't be. It can't be because of Nikr, because if that's true, then Yavasha Tishtri, Yashin Tishtri, that if it's dried or if it's aged cheese, it should be allowed. Dirmav Chenina, Yavesh Mutter, Ein Menichan Yavesh, because the poison itself will cause that the cheese will never dry up. So if it's dried up, it shows that there's no poison in there. Yashin mutter in menichel yashin. That again, poison will not allow it to become aged. So the fact that it's aged is proof that there's no cheese, there's no poison in there. So therefore, why do we make it like a little plug? So Omer Chanina must be another reason. Lafi she'iev shela blosach suchay chalav. Because it's impossible that there wouldn't be at least some milk of a non-kosher animal in there. It says Rashi, being guma shel gvina, that if you're in the holes, in the pores of the cheese, nishir min achalav, there'll be some milk there. V'chalav shechalav chachavim v'yisur ohu aser. Because an oich chachavim who milks and a yid didn't see it, it's aser dimla arav b'chalav tameh. Because we're concerned he may have mixed non-kosher milk in there. As we saw before, we're concerned that he may have been maimed it, curdled it with the hide of the inners of an avela. So ha keva gufa sharia, which is mashma, the keva itself is mutter. Right? We know that it's mutter. When it comes to the cave of idol worship, Vishal Nevela, Harizu Asura. Vavin, we said, Atu, the Ovi Kachavim Lav Nevela. You understand the fact that it's a Avodah Kachavim that makes it not an Nevela. Yom Shmuel Chadakatani. Kevas Shchita Sem Kachavim. The Keva of even the Shchita of the Kachavim, Nevela Asura. It's still considered to be Asur. So our answer is a little kasha as we continue to Lamed Hayamid Beis. Kan Kaidim Chazara, Kan La'achar Chazara. Says Rashi, Oyisa Mishnah, the Shchita Schulin, the Kevas of Chachavim Nevela, regarding the inside of the idol worshippers, Nevela, the Asura Nishnis, this was learned, Kainim Shechazar Bar Rabbi Yeshua B'dvarav, before he retracted. Shiarmu lo Rabbi Shmuel, Memesha Mebenos Kevas Nevela, V'savar Lav Pirushahu. And then what is after the he retracted. Avol kevel atzma shariel achar chazer shechazer Rabbi Yeshua memnei shuvasa Rabbi Shmuel. So basically, he ends up changing his mind regarding the cave itself. Umishtal is also kind, which didn't change the Mishnah. Rav Malchiyah with an aleph, which this is quoted numerous places. There's 3 times Malchiyah, 3 times Malchiyoi. Mishmei de Rav Adabarava Imer Menei Shemachalkim Paneha B'Shumin Chazir, because they smear on the cheese fat from a pig. Rav Chisda Imer Menei Shemamidan Oyisa B'Chaimitz. The problem is that they put vinegar on it, which comes from Stam Yenam, which is obviously a problem. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Imer Menei Shemamidan Oyisa B'Sraf Arla. Actually, because they take from the sap of an arla tree. Kamanki haitan in the sanyo. Rebbe Lezer Omer Hamaimid b'sarafa arla asum imneshu peri, because it's a fruit. Viltem Rebbe Yeshua. Ankal upon Rebbe Yeshua led Rebbe Lezer ela b'katva de guza. The only time he argued argues is as well as Besraf HaYotzim and Eitz, the sap that comes from the actual tree. Avol Bekadfa Depeira Moidi. However, the sap of the fruit itself, he agrees. V'hainu ditnano Rabbi Yeshua Shemaiti Beferish. I heard this explicitly. Shemamidim Besraf Ha'olin, that a person can be mimed with the sap of the leaves of a Besraf Hikarin, or that of the roots is mutter. However, Besraf Hapagin, of the fruit itself, is also Mishu Peri. So the issue of Arla is dafka the fruit, or anything which is somehow connected to it. Bein Rav Chisda, Bein Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Titzer Bahana. L'chayra, according to both of those shitas, it should still be Asr Bahana. So why do we say it's Mutter Bahana? Kasha. Darsh Rav Nachman to Rav Chisda, Maidachsiv. What does the pasuk mean when it says Oreach Shemonecha Toivim, that the smell is very good? Lama Talmid Chacham Daima was Sluchis Shel Platian. Why is it that a Talmid Chacham is comparable to a flask of balsam? So Megula Reicha Naidif Mechusa in Reicha Naidif. That if it's open, then it produces a beautiful fragrance. Then as he teaches others. But if he keeps everything to himself, then the aroma stays to himself. The things that are concealed become revealed. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, and let's get this pasuk, only pasuk which is in Shir Shirim, that the smell of this great fragrance, Shemin Turak Shemecha Alkain Oyulamis Ahayvucha. So what do we learn from here? That Oyulamis Avucha Karbe Oyulamis. Lo'oid El Shemalach Amaves Ohavoy. The Malach Amaves will love Shnemar Oyulamis Avucha. Karbe Al Mavas. Lo'oid El Sheneicha Shnei Olamos, you inherit both worlds. Echad Olam Hoyam Hazav, Echad Olam Haba. Shnemar Oyulamis Karbe Oyulamois. Lashon Rabin, more than one. Okay, so with regard to Chizkiah, I'm not even sure where this is, but 2b said that when it comes to Kfashim Shiodua, Shenoisin Loseichin Yayin, if you have this pickled item which you know wine was put into it, Asr Bahana, Kashkanal, why is that Asr Bahana? So the answer is because Hasam La'avuri Zuhuma Hachalam Tuki Taima. So again, I'm not sure where this says this, but one is to remove a bad odor, and the other one is to produce a good smell. Madua ein loimer the tam iser gavinos hu bishum nikor. The issue with nikor is because then we should mater yavish or yashan, because it's not shaykh. If there was venom in it, that it would become old. If it would become old, or for it to become dry. Okay. So the issue with vinegar, which is yayin stam yenam, so the issue is that it should be asur b'hana, but we say we don't find it being asur b'hana. Question 4. So he said, so oyulamis is shemigalon loy devarim hamachusim imenu. These things will be revealed to him. Al maves is referring to the malcha maves, loves you, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. Or oyulamis means that you'll inherit both worlds, namely olam hazeh and olam haba. Okay. It's a lot of questions here, so let's go through them. That was that. Let's look at question TA 17. Madua Gozral Gavinos Akam Rabbanan, cost of at the least 4 to 5 answers. So one is for some reason the issue, the Gezerah of Nikor is not mentioned over here. Okay. The answers that are provided here are, this is question 17, Sechsuchi Chalav, that there's non-kosher milk in there, or Maimid or Kavas Nevela, which is from the Mishnah. Shemechalkin Paneh B'Shemen Chazir, which is the famous answer, or Malchia, that you smear pig fat on it, or Ma'abin B'Chaimitz, you vinegar, which is from Stam Yenam, or Srap Arla. So these are all issues. Okay. Let's see. TB17 Madua Pirish Avodah Zarah Asabahana Mishal Shahanisko Mutter. Okay. So that's Lamid Haim Aleph. So let's just mark this down. That's TB17. This is what I wrote. So the parish Nichalei Hapara Nir Gadoil Avodah Zarah Zek Kavod Avodah Zarah Ve'ein benefit Lefarish the waste of Shara Niskol Shehu Hoylech Lamav that's going to die. The Gabaglal Hagzer Sakosuv Gabi Shara Niskol Oyuroi V'Lo Pirsho, etc. It says Besara V'Lo Pirsho Muti Pirish Mapasuk. It's not from Oyur, it's from Besaro, as opposed to the pasuk. As opposed to the pasuk of Lo Yidmak Biyadcha Mu'uma. Okay. So this is actually Lamed, starts on Lamed Dalam Beis even. Okay. So let me put that there. TB 17. Okay. And then TB 18. Madu Gazral Gavinas Akam Rabbanan. So this is the same as TA 17. So this is Lamed Dalad Amud Beis. Lamed Dalad Amud Beis? No, 1 second. This is Lamed Dalad Amud Beis to Lamed Hey Amud Beis. Let's see. TA 17. This is TB 18. Put that in parentheses. And TB 18. And TB 18. Okay. Let's see what I wrote. Shem Chazir, Cholam Behema Tameya, Chasnos, no, Bas B'Cholov, Isser Avodah Zarah, Isser Nevelis is correct. Kavas Nevela, that one is correct. But I didn't write the other ones, like Saraf, or the Chaimitz, Saraf, Arla. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Let's continue with the next mission. Says the Mastis. There are certain things which are asur b'hana, but this is not on the same level. That even though it's going to be asur, but it's not asur b'hana. So let's say you have milk that was milked by an idol worshiper, but it's not seen by a yid. As well as their bread, as well as their oil. Fine. So we'll understand the reason why, but nonetheless, that's it. Rabbi Beis Dino Hetiru Hashemen. When it came to the oil, they were more lenient. Bashlakois, when it comes to shlakos, that's why I should call davar she bishlo avikachavim v'afilu b'kli tahar v'kuhu mishum chasnos. So there you go. So there's an issue of chasnos that we're concerned that if you eat something which they cooked, so then we can be concerned about that. Kavush is lichvosh dogim, like pickling fish or vegetables and the like. As they put vinegar in there, shadarkan loses l'soichan yain b'chaimitz, so it could be an issue of stan yenam. The tris terufa, when it comes to, Rashi says, min dogim katanim aluchim, small salted fish, which are all chopped up. So because you can't recognize them, Rashi says hilka chayish with tameim. We're considered maybe non-kosher fish in there as well. But sir she'ein ba daga kalbit, or if we had this brine, it says Rashi shederach kalbit ligadol me'aleha, but sir shel dagim tahirin. It's possible that again it commingled with kosher and non-kosher. Shaitatis boy bachilik. Chilik, Rashi says, is also a min dogim. It's a type of fish. They're very small. The ein lo snapper v'kaskasas. They don't have fins and scales. The also legadol achrisman snapper v'kaskasas. They kamelon de muteris. We said that they're mutter. But we said the problem is that maybe you'll mix them together with non-kosher fish, and therefore you're not going to know the difference. Kairit shel chaltis. Rashi says a min peri. It's a type of fruit or grain. Umachadchin es kartiv b'sakin, and you end up cutting it with a knife. Asumishum shimnanisa de sakina. We're concerned that they may not have cleaned their knife properly, and therefore there may be some residue that is on the knife which is not kosher. Umelach shil kundis. And Gemara is going to explain what that is. Why does the Mishnah have to repeat itself? Okay, but that's it. So now the Gemara is going to go one by one. What's the whole problem with milk? Is it because we're concerned that you may mix it, they may end up giving you non-kosher milk? So tahar chir. Tahar milk is white. Tameh yark has more of a different color, greenish complexion. Now, so you'll know the difference. When they mix it up, that may be the problem. So nikum di'aymer mar chalav tahar oimid chalav tameh enu maimid enu oimid. So again, chalav tahar is oimid. So you can test it because milk, which is kosher, could be curdled. However, non-kosher milk cannot be curdled. So therefore, we could always determine its status. We could see. So idika boil gavina hachanam. You're right. If the purpose is for the milk to turn into cheese, then you won't have to worry because you'll be able to figure it out. You want it to eat, to consume it as milk, and therefore you're not going to be able to do this test to see if it's curdled because you want to drink the milk now. So why don't you just do a small amount to be able to test it, and then you can, if it works out that it does curdle, then you could drink the rest. You can't necessarily use this test because it's not always possible for it to be able to turn into whey. So really, if you wanted to turn to cheese, so then what's the problem? Because some whey may be left over. Vapas. So Rav Kahano Rav Yochanan pas ulhutra bebeistin. The beistin did not allow pas. Now mechalal deika mandashari. The fact that beistin, we're saying specifically beistin, it must be that maybe at some point it was actually allowed. So Beni Atfi, by the way, Rashi says is between the holes. Between this non-kosher milk, okay. Anyway, so in the Chiyas Rabdimi Omer Pamachas Yatsa Rabbi Lusada, he went out to the field. The Hevi of Pas Porni. So he brought him this type of bread, which is, says Rashi, is a big bread, me'afa sa, which was this large measurement. Oimer Rebbe kamena pasu. Wow, what beautiful bread. Ma roch chachamim lo'isru. So why the chachamim aser it? Ma roch chachamim mishum chasnus. We know the reason why. It's because of chasnus. We don't want you to start eating meals and enjoying each other's company. Men have wanted to marry their daughter. El ma roch chachamim lo'isru b'sadeh. So what does it mean in the field? Because Svarim hitir Rabbi Hapas. it sounded like he said the bread is okay. V'lohi Rabbi will hit a pas. He didn't matter the pas at all. He maybe just complimented, oh, it's nice bread. It doesn't mean you can eat it. Rabbi Yomi Tamer Rav Shimon Yehuda Omer Lo Kafla Yemaisa. That's not the story. El Omer Pamachas Holach Rabbi Lo Makam Echad. He was on the place. Rav Pas Dochlik LaTalmidim. He saw a very small amount of bread for his students. So Omer Rabbi Ein Kan Palter. This is not baker's bread. Now Ksvar Ma'am Loimer Palter of Kachavim. We're talking about a baker of an idol worshiper. The Hu Loimer Elo Palter Yisrael. But actually, he was talking about pas palter means pas of Yisrael. Even if you want to tell me that the palter of Chachavim is allowed, that's only if there's no other baker. But if there's a possibility of getting palter of Yisrael, then not. So it's interesting. We hear pas palter, which means there's a heter if it's baker's bread. So there we're more lenient. Because the whole issue is chasnos. So that's more of like an intimate meal with someone. But if you're going to a bakery, there's no issue of chasnos. You're not trying to marry the baker's daughter. But even so, you really should have pas Yisrael if you can have access to it. It's only when there's no palter Yisrael then we can be makel with palter akum. Avol mamakam deika palter Yisrael lo. Avol be'ir lo mishum chasnos. In a field, it's not a problem, but in a city, it's an issue. So again, in the field, there's no reason to be concerned because you just chanced upon him, as Rashi says, you just happened to bump into this guy. So it's a one-time thing. It's not like your neighbor where you constantly keep eating with him. So therefore, because of that, the din is different. Okay, fine. Let's finish up this daf. So Ibo Havi Manches Ochel Pas Abe Mitzri. So he was biting and eating bread at the border, Besades Eitzel Hamitzrim, which is like a field which is near a border city. You shouldn't be doing this. The evil he's eating this type of bread, which is he shouldn't be doing. Question 5, we're going to stop there. Rabbi pas akum. So pas akum could be allowed Yisrael if there's no Jewish baker, or besadev will be di'kroi ba'almahu adkan.